All right. Welcome everybody, and welcome back. You guys tuned in earlier when I was doing the podcast. You guys already know I told you that we was coming back again. Thank you for joining in for another episode of the Grief Let's Talk About It podcast, and for episode 4. I know it's been a while since we've been doing the episodes on the ancestral healing. Some things that just came up, so we've had to push things around a little bit. But we are here with this episode number 4 of the ancestral healing, healing past traumas from our ancestors and breaking those chains and moving forward. It's a deep dive into the healing process and what does that look like. And this episode is called "Pulling Back the Layers." I do have my beautiful co-host here, Andre Brunswick, and we may have a few more people jumping on and things like that. But we're just going to keep the conversation going, right? We're going to dive deeper into it. If this is your first time tuning in, do me a favor, head over to that YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification, so you'll be notified every time that we drop a new episode. And yes, we are dropping daily episodes, so guys want to stay up to date. This is how you do it. We're going to be switching platforms shortly, probably real soon, and everything. I'm just getting everything set up, make it look real good for you guys and everything. So with that being said, Andrea, how you doing, friend?
Tony,
Awesome.
I'm awesome.
We are here.
Did you say you're going to move to Restream?
No, I'm using to Prism. So
Prism, right?
Yeah, Prism allows us to have a lot more people on the platform, and things like that. So it's unlimited how many people that we can have on. But also it offers a lot more diversity. I have animations that are going to begin developed. We got a lot of things that I can add into there as well. So I'm really excited about that. And we get to stream to a lot more different platforms as well. So I think right now I'm up to 67 different platforms that we're going to be streaming across and everything, so we're going to be all over the place, saying, where we stream.
We're everywhere.
Yeah. And it also offers a compact chat box to where instead of jumping from platform to platform to see who's writing what or commenting this and everything, it offers everything right there on one simple screen. Yeah. So I love that now. You know what I'm saying? I really do love that. And now, with that being said, we're diving into this today, right?
You know what? I'm so excited because, first of all, me and you are both always about peeling back the layers.
Yes.
Peeling back the layer, and how important it is to peel back those layers.
Yes.
Right.
Well, and then when we think about the just the healing process in general, for me, it has been one of those that has been very revealing. And, and the deeper I dive into it, the more and more I want to dive into it. And which leads us here, right? You and I had a conversation some while ago, and that's how we came up with this.
I know.
So now here we are. We're diving into the meat of this thing. And so when I pose the question, pulling back the layers.
Yeah.
What is the first thing that come to mind in relation to healing those ancestral traumas?
Okay, so when I think about that, it's like getting the more layers that we peel back, the closer we get to the root.
Right.
The root of the initial trauma or traumas, the issue or issues, and its originating source.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's so vital. And as you just said, I mean, healing work, you need to remove the layers.
Yes.
It's so important. Nothing can be done surface. Like if you're just gonna take your healing to the surface level, yeah, you can run, but you can't hide because it's gonna come and bite you in the ass. It will come and bite you. Yeah.
That's very true.
Now, how do I know that? Yeah, I know it firsthand. Not because I'm a coach, but I experienced that. We don't want to go deep. We don't want to peel back layers, and we don't want to have to process pain as humans.
And I want to add to that because you're absolutely right. It's that surface layer that I think people will actually stop that, right? And I said this on one of my podcasts not too long ago. I told him, I said, I think I've healed too much, right? And the guest was like, I don't know if you can do that. I said, I think I have, right? I think I've healed entirely too much because things just don't bother me anymore, right? You know what I'm saying? Like I may have ideas and I run with them as people see, right? But that's just me.
But it could also just be for that season that you've healed enough because, I don't know. And I didn't mean to cut you off, but if I think about something, okay, my dad, it's going to be 40 years since he passed.
Mm-hmm.
So probably 10 years out, I thought, oh, I'm good. I did my healing. Yeah? Well, no, because guess what? Now I'm that much older and now my life takes a different turn. So I think we can heal for the season that we're in. Like, yes, we did our work for that season. Absolutely. So yeah, I believe what you say that, yeah, you felt like, no, I'm healed. I'm all good.
No,
I'm all good.
Well, let me elaborate on that a little bit, right? Let me elaborate on that. Because,
okay.
Healing from loss, healing from traumas, healing your mental health, your emotional health, your physical health. All of these different things are just different levels, variations of the healing, right? Because you can be sick and everything, and you would have to heal from that, So that's where I look at it. It's such an individual thing.
Yes.
Such an individual thing that you have to go in and you have to attach yourself to each and every last one of those, and then let it break itself down and follow the path that it takes you on, right? And it's holding yourself accountable. Now, there's different of accountability as well, right? Your emotional health. What does that mean? Well, let's dive deeper into that. Your emotional health can mean healing from relationships that you've had with people that probably was not the best. It can be healing from heartbreak. It can be healing from loss of friendships, loss of jobs, all of those different things. So that's just one aspect of it. Now, when I dive deeper into this thing, it surpasses the thought of generational traumas.
Yeah.
Right? Because when we think about generational traumas, we often think about our grandparents and our great grandparents, or our great parents, grandparents, great grandparents, and it normally stops there, right? You know what I'm saying? Because then we have to break down what has been passed down through that lineage, and you have to make a decision. Well, this stops right here. Now, what this in-depth healing, like I said, it took me to a place to where I never thought was possible. And that was connecting with those who started this bloodline long before the slavery or anything like that. And I was curious, right? Like, what did my ancestors go through? What was it like when my bloodline first started? And because they're no longer here anymore, and I hate to assume, but I have to imagine living in a time like that where they had to go through some stuff, right? And I think that's where the in-depth understanding comes from. Well, Renee is here.
Okay, great.
Connected just yet. So as soon as it connects, I'll bring her on and everything, and she could join in on a conversation. But that is what I'm talking about, right? That understanding.
No, you know what? When we had this initial conversation that day at the end of doing your podcast, I was like, yeah, and I had mentioned during that podcast, because that's what made me start to think. I think I was just making a statement like off the cuff. I was being serious, sarcastic, joking, right?
Yeah.
But then you said, no, Andrea, I've been really giving that some deep contemplation, And you were creating this modality to allow yourself to connect with those ancestors, with your ancestry.
Right.
Well, hello, my dear.
You're on mute.
You're on mute. You're on mute.
Uh-oh. She just popped up. Okay. When she pops back on, we'll bring her on. But that's what I mean right there, right? That's the meat and potatoes about everything. That's that feeling that really gets down to your soul. And you know, and the more and more I begin to dive into it, the more and more I began to think about the soul healing, right? You know, and the connections that we have with that story. And that was where my mind and my curiosity went. And I was like, I want to touch on that a little bit more.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Deeper, right? And like I said, my journey into even entertaining the idea of it was my grief showed up. My grief storm showed up. And I've been known to just sit with it and sit within that hurricane of it, that funnel of it, and extract those things that are still poking out that I know that needs to be healed. And this time it was different. It was like, yeah, look, we've been working on these things over here. And if you notice, they're just little small speed bumps right now.
Right.
And, you know, and so, and then that door opened up.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So, you know what I'm saying? And when that door opened up, I wanted to go inside of it. And that's where my mind began to just go so much deeper into, I wanted to understand. I wanted to have conversations, but most importantly, I wanted to be free in the present. And I realized that I couldn't be totally free in the present without releasing the past.
The past. It is the past. It's not usually our present that keeps us stuck. It's our past that keeps us chained, right? We're chained. We're shackled to the past. And often we do that with our future. The present, if we would just allow ourselves to be in this present state of being, our souls, I think, would be okay. But our souls want to pull us in two different directions. I have a question for you as you're talking about this. You know, you said you wanted your mind to be able to understand and to make sense of things, but I know you started this journey because you recognize that your soul, right, was the wounded part. And that's where your wounds were living, was in your soul. How have you found the process that you were creating and working with in terms of able to heal your soul? Have you felt different? Do you feel different? What's the situation there?
Oh yeah, 100%. Because I realized that the soul is the energy to this body. And so I began to nurture it, right? You know, because there's so many layers that come along with that. I believe that when we're sleeping, our souls go out into the world and connect with people, places, and things, and we get up with these memories that we don't know where it came from, right?
Right.
And we may that feeling of deja vu. We may walk across somebody and cross paths with them, and look and go, man, I know this person from somewhere. So that's where that comes from, you know, because I believe our souls are like children. You know, it wants to be free. It wants to go out and give us the best possible human experience ever that we can never have, in order to have stories to take back when we leave this place, right? You know what I'm saying? Not only did we have the physical aspect, but we allowed the soul to go out there and have that experience as well, right? And that's where I believe that connection comes from. And you know, there's a huge portion of me that goes, allow it to do it. Allow yourself to be totally free, subconsciously, unconsciously within the universe. Let it explore. Don't bound it. And that's where, when I say that, that's where those chains I begin to follow And I realized that that's what was bounding me to what to that underlying belief system that I had to release.
Right.
So breaking those chains allowed my soul to do more in the world. And so yeah, I do feel totally different. I feel as if I'm a lot lighter. Um, I feel more connected. I feel um, more open and free in the present moment because there's nothing tying me to my past anymore. It's
Right.
people, and when we think about that, right, it's that terminology of, what does peace truly mean? What does it really mean? How deep does it go? And are you willing to allow yourself to go down that hole? Are you willing to go down that hole, no matter how scary it may be, in order to get to where you need to be? Because I believe our lives is like a circle. It's just repetitive, right? The things that we experience in this world or in this lifetime, we have already experienced. The knowledge that we have, it comes back and we just elaborate on that to find out more of what's required us in the present moment. And I think that's where, and this is just me, and it could be a little bit different for most people, and that's totally fine. But I feel that I've done this work before, just in a different way. But I do feel as if, like, even my knowledge that comes from um, grief and understanding it in its almost totality, I don't know where that knowledge came from. Hell, if you would have told me what anticipatory grief or inhibited grief was 10, 20 years ago, I would have looked at you like you was crazy. If you would have told me anything about podcasting and guest speaking, I would have looked at you like you were out of your mind, right? But now sitting with it, I find that, and this doesn't make me any better than anyone else. It just means I have a deeper understanding of my path, of my gift. But it's like I've done this before,
Mm.
right? It's like there's a portion of me that has walked this path several times over, but
Right.
really completed the journey. Like I passed away before the journey was complete. And every time I come, I have this knowledge. But it's taken me to have been cracked open like Humpty Dumpty,
Right.
right?
I just want to tell you, sorry, that Renita sent me a message. She's saying she's having difficulty with StreamYard to connect her mic and her camera she's in South Africa.
Mm.
She wanted to know if she can join on Google Meet, because that thing is also in the body of the email. But no, because we're StreamYarding, right?
Right. We're streaming live.
Right. Okay. All right.
Is she coming in from her phone?
Oh, let me ask her.
Because that can be where the problem lies.
Okay, I just sent her that question. Yeah, you know what, Tony, that's very interesting. I think I had mentioned this to you when we first were developing this conversation, that 2 years ago now, there's a woman that I follow. Her name is Katie Souza.
Mm-hmm.
And she has a show called Faith with Katie. Anyway, so she had a guest on. They were talking about this topic. And she was saying that a lot of our traumas and our wounds, and she did this and had this prayer to bring us back to the sundial of As. So back to a specific, my phone. Yeah. So yeah, I'll tell her, use your computer.
Yeah.
So anyways, that's really where I first started hearing about, I mean, that's just a lot of people that do this work, right? But it is so very important because often we'll be on our journey of healing and we'll feel like we're hitting that wall, right? And we don't understand why we reach a certain point, but then we keep hitting that wall. Like, what is up with that?
Right.
And what is up with that is something far back, something far, far, far back in our lineage of a specific trauma that happened. I mean, let's face it, Tony. Most of us don't know how far back our lineage goes.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Okay. Now, I was blessed a number of years ago to work with, I think she's either an apostle or prophet. Anyway, so she did this thing on me. She has this very deep ability, and she went back into my lineage and back into my Jewish ancestry and into my family. Now, she did it on another friend whose family were worshipers of Baal, right? And where all of that trauma in their family had stemmed from. Now, listen, many years ago, that whole past life regression thing, that was like all the buzz, right? And a lot of facilitators would do past life regression. But this is even more. This is even deeper.
Right.
We could be going back thousands, depending again upon the lineage of one's bloodline. We don't know how far back we go.
Or the lineage of you.
Oh, talk a bit more about that, the lineage of me, yeah.
Right? So, and this is just my thoughts on it, right? Our energy is just recycled. When we enter into this world, I think we just are born back into a different body. We're come back to complete what we're supposed to. And so if we think about it in that way, right? How many times have you been recycled? How about, because your knowledge comes from somewhere. You just don't wake up and go, wow, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is what I'm going to do. Look, no one gets into the grief field willingly. There's someone that's passionate about it. I know a few people that are very passionate about it. But it normally takes a different individual to want to get into this thing and to obtain the depth of knowledge that comes into it to be effective in what we do, right? And so now, if that knowledge is there and we just tap into it, right? We just tap into it, and all of a sudden there's an influx of just things that make sense to us. Part of our gift, if we will. Now, since the beginning of time, what if when you first come into this world, that gift is nothing but a seed, right? The knowledge is there, but you have to implement that knowledge and plant the seed and everything in order for it to begin to develop. And then maybe you don't complete it that go around, right? But your life, you've gone through some things. You know that you've gone through some things. People, you go through all of those different things. You have connections to our ancestors, and that's what I mean. That's right. What I mean. Because when we as individuals enter into the world, we are entered into the world through a tunnel from the female womb. That female womb carries knowledge, right? Because it is the birth, right? You're born into this world. And now, how many times have you done that? How much knowledge have you retained over the world? Because think about it this way, right? There are some people that come into this world and right off the bat, they know what they want to do. They begin to tap into it. They don't know where it came from, but they tap into it. Sometimes they become very, very successful in a short amount of time because they allow themselves to tap into it. Other times, you may have a late bloomer to where, it may take you a couple times. But maybe your purpose is that much bigger that it's required for you to come and take that time in order for it to develop. And then you got that one time that you'll come back and it's like, and again, I'm only using myself as an example. the day that I went to go take my life was the day that my brain opened up, and my brain was like a supercomputer. All of this stuff downloaded on me. I didn't know where it came from. I can say that was lived experience, but it was so much deeper than that. And I began to explore it. And lo and behold, this thing called grief began to make so much more sense to me. I realized that it wasn't personal. And I always felt, even now, doing things in the present day, I could easily tell myself no, right? But somehow, some way, here I am.
Right.
And I talk with people from across the world. And look, I may have all these certifications and everything, but it's not like I picked up a book or anything.
Yeah.
Right? And I've talked to therapists. I've talked to neurologists. I've talked to behavior analysis. I've talked to other podcasters. I talked to people who are very, very effective in the realm that they're in the lane that they're in, right? And being able to hold conversations with these individuals. I couldn't tell you where the knowledge came from, but it just really just made sense to me. And so now when I look at that and I look at the chain that has been so-called my journey, right? What is it tied to? Where does it begin? And that's where I come back in and I go back into that room where my ancestors are there. And I'm just like, okay, come here. I'm gonna sit down here. You talk to me. And just like we need help now, it's as if they need the help to break those chains. And boom. And there's another part of me that opens up. And there's a sense of peace. I'm releasing those things.
Yes.
And that's what I mean by peeling back those layers. How deep does it go? And it always posed the question to me, which I posed the question to you as well. Have you ever felt like that you were paying for something that you had nothing to do with?
Not necessarily that, but I could see how I could see repetitive patterns of dysfunction, heartache, and heartbreak,
Mm-hmm.
right? Where it had been generations skipped. Make sense?
Makes sense.
Yeah. So funny enough, if we take a look at our own families, our mothers and our fathers, and look to see what had taken place in their lives before they became my mother and my father.
Right.
Right. So when my father was just before he was my father, right? My mother before she was my mother, and experiences that they had. And then you find out if one is lucky enough, because it depends on how many of your relatives, like in my case, both of my parents are passed on. You know, that I have one aunt, but God bless, she's like 98 now and she has dementia.
Mm-hmm.
So who do I get to go to hear that? And when people were alive and I was younger, I wasn't interested in knowing that stuff.
Right.
So I didn't have the opportunity to ask the questions and to find out the information.
Mm-hmm.
But we know that there are experts who actually do this work.
Right.
That you can go to. Or, you know, in my case, there was one because I had watched that episode of Faith with Katie, and she had a guest on, and that was specifically their topic about our trauma. Is our trauma healed? Because a lot of the times, if we're still repeating specific patterns, there's still a healing that needs to be done in that area for that trauma, for that part of your soul. But that was where I found out about the dunamis resurrection power and its power, and how the dunamis resurrection power has the ability to heal through. Right. And I was like, wow. I
Yeah.
would be blown away, honestly, blown away. So you're right. Where do we get this knowledge? Where does it come from? Does it come from the Holy Ghost? Is it from the consciousness of the Father? Like, where and how do we receive it?
Well, I have a theory on that as well, right? Is I think it's carried with us. I want to dive deeper into that, right? And
Yeah.
what I mean by that, and I told you about, I just mentioned about being recycled back into this place, just in different forms, right? I think that is, if we break it down, you would often hear people say nowadays, you can't blame your parents for what they didn't know. So
Right.
then we go back, right? Who taught them? Can we blame them for teaching them? Or but yet, if that's what they knew and they had to learn that from somewhere, let's go back another generation. Who taught them?
Right.
So then it takes us down this windy, curvy road, right? You know what I'm saying? Because now, if you really break it down and go truly, truly in depth with pulling back these layers, what sort of experiences did they have? You know what I'm saying? What sort of friends was around them? What sort of life did they live? Was there? I mean, we
What
don't know.
hardships? What hardships did they
What
endure?
hardships, right? Yeah, you said it right there. What hardships have they experienced that give them that mentality?
Yeah.
Okay, so now let's go back a little bit deeper, right? Now, if they have this work ethic and they had gone through this, they had to learn that from some. So now, do you understand? Like, how far back does it go? Are you willing to go and trace that and begin to break all of those different chains in order for it to stop where you are in the moment that you're in?
Right.
And so it goes so much deeper than that. So we're gonna see if she's gonna pop up real quick.
Yeah. Let's cross our fingers and hope it happens.
Yes, 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 yes. I believe she will. I believe she's going to jump on, and we're going to continue this and go dive deeper into this thing.
Yeah. But no, you're
But
absolutely right, Tony, because and again, it depends on your family. Like, I had a friend on Facebook today do a happy birthday post for her aunt who turned 106 today.
right. Can
Right?
you imagine the stories that she tells?
Exactly.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine what the world looked like 106 years ago?
No.
Right? Think about that for a minute.
Can you imagine the pain of the individuals 106 years ago? The level of poverty. I mean, back then it really was, the distinction of the classes from the rich to poverty. And there was no such thing. I mean, there's no such thing anymore as middle class, but there definitely wasn't a thing called the middle class back then.
Right.
Yeah.
So can you imagine living life through that journey there? In
only that short period of
eventually
time.
she's going to pop up here. We're going to get her on.
Yeah. Right. But if we would just take a look at this lady, 106 years of age, you're just dealing there. How many generations of the family? Okay. And now, if you went back another 106 years or another 106 years. So now we've gone back like 300 years into our ancestry. Well.
Hello.
Welcome. Are you on mute?
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Can you hear us? Renetta, can you hear us? Hey, Tony, can you, like when you're hosting Zoom, how the host has the opportunity to mute or unmute guests?
I don't have her on mute. She should, I can hear her. I don't know if she just can't hear us.
That's why I always recommend people wear headsets.
Well, and on top of there, a lot of times it has to do with the
is.
computer setting itself. like you would have to go back into the computer. So, if you go through, you can find your settings and go in there and set it up to where it's playing through the microphone as well as the camera.
Yeah, she's getting some help.
And then that should go back to default through the system.
Yeah. So it's such a wild ride. Just this conversation, just the uncovering and the unfolding of all of this. Renita, can you hear us? Are you good? I don't know. Are you there?
I'm gonna message her in the private setting.
Okay. All right, you do it, Tony, because I call you Mr. Techie. Yeah. God bless technology, Tony.
Yes. So yeah, I just sent her a message in the
she's saying she just sent me a message on Messenger. She goes, her connections, apparently South Africa is having bad weather. And she wants to know if she can reschedule.
Of course.
Gave her a thumbs up.
Of course.
Yes, absolutely.
And the next time we'll get on early. That way we can address those issues and everything, because a lot of times it's just in the computer settings.
Right. But you know what? Also, Tony, is that not everywhere in the world certain things are available either. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I have done podcasts in South Africa. I've done them all across the world.
So you know that. Okay.
So a lot of times what happens is that the computer would change the settings when you go on certain apps.
Okay. And sometimes it has to do with your browser that you use also.
It can do with the browser, but more than likely it's in your settings. So, you know what I'm saying? Okay. And that's why whenever I do podcasts, I always tell people to jump on a little early. That way, you know what I'm saying, if we do have those issues, I can walk you through the technical aspect of it. You know what I'm saying? It's just a matter of just going back into your computer and changing those settings.
Yeah.
And getting everything to
line up. It's like we have to align with the alignment of the technical people. Okay.
And technology has come a long ways nowadays. So
it has been, but humans haven't.
Yeah.
Like it may have gotten a long way, but I know I haven't.
I'm still learning. And the only reason why I've learned is because I ran into my fair share of failures along the way. Okay. Right. You know what I'm saying? So which makes it interesting in the long run. All right. But going back to what we were talking about though.
Yeah.
And diving deeper into that. I was just, I had this thought coming along and things like that. And it's the thought of what sort of mentality would you have had you been there in the beginning, right? You've had to change in some way, shape, or form. There's the life that you live, and then there's the life that you survive. And I think that plays a deeper role into it, right? You know what I'm saying? Because our survival instincts are there. They're intuitive. But we learn how to survive instinctively. Like, say for instance, let's go and dive into some of the tribes over in the Amazon. The Amazon is probably one of the most dangerous places in the world. It is, even if not, it's up there in the top charts. But you got tribes that thrive over there with the animals. With the many things that go on, like flesh-eating diseases. You know what I'm saying? Things that would kill you, right? But yet they learn to thrive. That stuff comes from somewhere. And then they also live within the hunter-gatherer notion of life. You eat what you kill. Nothing is ever wasted, but you survive off of what's already around you. That
Right.
knowledge is passed down, like the way that they make their bow and arrows or their knives or their staffs, how to climb trees, how to communicate to the animals and things like that. Think about
How
that.
to make their canoes. How to
How
make
to
their
make their
canoes.
canoes, right? You know what I'm saying? So this knowledge that is carried on, I mean, and that is taught through the generations. They have certain traditions that if we was to go over there and witness, we would think that they were crazy. But it was like a rite of passage. Let's dive into this phrase, and I think this is going to make sense when I say it, right? It's the story of the Native American grandfather and the grandson. And I think this describes us, and you know what I'm saying, and it goes really deep when you think about it. The grandson one day went to the grandfather, and he says, grandfather, um, there's this guy over there, and he's arguing with himself. I think he's crazy. And grandfather said, no, he's not crazy. And grandson says, well, what do you mean? And grandfather says, son, within us, there are two wolves, one good and one evil. And they're constantly at fight with each other. And simply put, the grandson said, well, which one wins? And the reply was, the one that you feed the most. So that's a very deep statement. If we take it and apply it to ourselves and the road that we've been on, right? Because there's people that are just not good people in the world. There really is. There's some really bad people in the world. So it poses the question, which one of the wolves that we feed from the beginning of time to get us to where we are right now with the mentality, heart, the soul, and the compassion that we have? And again, energy is recycled throughout this world.
Absolutely. And now let's take that and let's apply that to our ancestors. Which one were they feeding?
Right. Yes.
Was it the healing or the trauma? Where were they making their choices and decisions from? A space and place of being healed, or the place and space of open gashing wounds of trauma?
Right. I mean,
and that is the recycled, repetitive insanity.
Well, yeah, that's an excellent phrase too, right? You know what I'm saying? What's the definition of insanity? Doing the same things over and over again, expecting different results.
Right.
So now we unpack that. Now, you know what I'm saying? If we have been doing that, it would make sense why we have a deep hurt that we don't understand what comes from, right? We have some people have a deep embedded fear that don't know where it comes from. You may be born, you know what I'm saying, and be afraid of spiders from the time that you're born. You don't know why, but it's there. You may go about and you may be like, I'm a battle dog, right? There's not too many situations that you can put me in that I will not fight my way out. There's not too many situations that I can approach. For me, it does not matter. I can go in a room full of 20 people and have 15 of those 20 want to fight me. Not on one-on-one, but at the same time. I would look at the situation and go, yeah, let's do it. And I have no fear of it. But again, that phrase battle dog takes me back to wanting to understand more of my ancestors, because were they anything like me? Where did this sense of fight comes from?
Right.
Where did that courage, that bravery comes from? Because I know I wasn't born with it, but that sense of having no fear of what happens to me. I think that's a unique trait.
But do we always know what we're born with? Because a lot of the things that we could have been born with were just, in a sense, laying dormant until it needed to be activated. And the activation can come from a situation or a circumstance, people, places, and things. So
break it down for me.
It's like they say we're all born with cancer cells. So
yes.
They say, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then the cancer cells become activated through trauma, through diet, through whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe it could be the same thing. I was on a podcast earlier today, and actually I tagged her in your post for your men's grief. Let's talk about it. Mm-hmm. Hers is Grief to Grace, and I think you should be a guest on hers too.
Ooh,
anyways, nice. I was mentioning you to her. Point is that she was asking me today about, how I was able to move through my grief, how not to just be able to move through it, but move from it in a sense.
Yes.
And I thought about that, and I said, well, I believe resiliency is something that we're taught. It's role modeled. Like many things are role modeled. Mm-hmm. Or anger, we can learn anger. I mean, God, I believe, gives us anger to use. Like there's a godly anger that we're all have inside of us, but that, that kind of like crazy anger, like that cray, a little bit cray anger, right? That can be role modeled, but resiliency can be role modeled. I mean, I know that my parents role modeled for me forgiveness. They role modeled for me how to have friends. So I believe we have these things. We may not know we have these things. And we have to sometimes just tap into it. Sometimes we have to reach deep down.
Right.
So far down, we got to reach down and pull it up.
Right. And I think, okay, so you saying that got me to thinking, if we have to reach that far down, that means that it's been sitting there this whole time. Right. And you said something that I think, is worth diving deeper into. It's been laying dormant. Are we born with it? I think that we are. I think that it's there, and it presents itself when in the right situation.
Right.
And what I mean by that is that if it's been sitting there and it presents itself in the right situation, what if the situation never arises? Do we ever reach into it? Or do we tap into something different? See, the beautiful thing about this life is that we all have a choice. We was born with freedom of choice. We can choose how we want to live this life. And I think that we already come equipped with the tools in order to do it. But if we choose to go into this world and go, I have to survive this world, no one ever says, well, these are the tools that you need to, no one's giving you these tools, because everybody's looking at you like, well, shoot, if you surviving, I'm surviving too. Right? It's every man for himself. It's the Bible of the fittest by any means necessary.
Right.
But then you have those individuals that get sheltered. They've never had to go through this life like that before. And so they come into a different section of themselves to where if we told them anything about the things that we've had to go through in our life, they'd probably look at us like we're freaking crazy, right? Like, wow, I don't know what that means. I know many people right now that have been so sheltered in the world that if you tell them, or if you express to them the sort of life that you've lived, they have no understanding. None whatsoever. Right. So, and again, this is what I mean. What if the situation was different and it provided you the tools that you needed for that life?
Right.
Where does this come from?
I truly believe from just, and this is my own observations from my own walk. Do I know everything? Absolutely not. But where I walk today with the Lord, So my understanding has shifted from other principles, from New Age principles into biblical godly principles. I fully believe that everything comes from the consciousness of the Lord. He gives it to us through what I now know and accept as the Holy Ghost is my teacher, will lead me to those that he wants me to receive that message from or that information from. That's just been my observation. Right or wrong doesn't really matter.
Right. It's what
how
works,
I've set that up. Right.
Yeah. And this is, and people become so divided on this, and I really don't understand why. Because it shouldn't matter what the next person believes or what they don't believe. You know what I'm saying? They're not hurting you. You don't get to have an opinion.
Well, they're not holding you down and shoving it down your throat.
I mean, but no, I'm just saying, like in general, right? You know what I'm saying? Because there are people out there that will, criticize you for what you believe and what you don't believe, right? And it's not our place to do that. It really isn't. Our place in this world is to leave people better than what we found them. Regardless, I can accept you for who you are as long as you're truthful about who you say that you are, right? And so now let's go and go down this little spiral.
Let's do it, Tony.
Quick, right? You know what I'm saying? So now I take that concept of it, and I go, okay, that survival instinct, I begin to pick away at it. I'm peeling those layers. I'm going back a little bit further, right? And I want to understand. I just want to understand a little bit more to know where I did learn those skills. I mean, because I mean, when I was a kid, and this is what I'm saying. I grew up in the projects, right? Not a whole lot going on. You know what I'm saying? We used to build bikes and go ride around and all kinds of things like that. We used to go down by the railroad tracks and catch raccoons, because back when I was a kid, our moms and dads was like, get out the house. We don't want to see you till the streetlights come on.
Exactly.
We went, right? But you know what I'm saying? There was a few things that played itself in. Like, you know what I'm saying? Learning how to fish. Because if I can't go back in the house, I still got to eat. Even at an early age, I knew that I had to eat, because mom was like, don't come in my house, letting out all the air, and carrying on, and so we couldn't go back in the house and watch cartoons. No, you keep your butt outside. So this is what we did. So I knew I grew up by the ocean. What does the ocean provide? Fish, clams, crabs, seaweed, things like that. Whole smorgasbord of things. You know what I'm saying? So we knew that. With that being said, we knew we wasn't going to go hungry, right? And so me and my friends, we taught ourselves how to fish. We started off with, we would find line and hooks along the beach, and we make ourselves some little makeshift fishing poles with sticks. Cast it on out there. Take a little rock and tie it on up there. Cast it on out there, right? We knew that we could find worms if we dug down in the sand. Where does that come from? No one's teaching us these things. This thing is already inside of us. So we know how to survive in that way. And then when we wasn't by the ocean and things like that, we go off into different parts and find ourselves in the woods somewhere, right? You know what I'm saying? And we got raccoons, we got squirrels, we got possums, we got snakes, right? I don't know about most people, but I knew when I was really young, we used to have these little pocket knives and things like that, right? And so we'd be out there and we learn how to make ourselves slingshots. Then we learn how to shoot them. We got really good at them. So it wasn't nothing for us to see the occasional raccoon going across or the occasional squirrel up in the street. Pop them out. Now that we got them, what do? Man, we got to get the skin off of him because we want the meat that's inside of them. What else comes inside there? Man, we got to get the guts out of there. We don't want to eat that. I'm pretty sure we made the mistake of doing that the first couple of times. Like, didn't like that. But
boys,
we like the meat.
Okay, only boys would do that, Tony.
Right. But there's some girls that do it as well. Again,
but boys are meant to be hunters. But you were doing what was innately in you.
Yes, and that's what I'm meaning right there, right?
Right. Like it's the innate.
Yes, we knew how to do this, right?
Yes.
And some things came natural than other things, like how to skin these animals and how to start a fire. right? Because we couldn't have matches or lighters. Our parents would kill us, right? So we had to learn how to rub some sticks together. Did we
Yeah.
fail? Yeah, a couple times till we got it right, right? And all these different things. We knew how to navigate the world.
Okay. So you're saying this, and it's okay, because there is that what is born within us. So
Mhm.
now, if we take a look, okay, so my daughter will be 27 next month. So let's take a look at that generation. And I remember when she was not even 3 yet.
Mhm.
And my husband had got a desktop computer for our son.
Mhm.
I think it was for his 8th or 9th birthday. And here I'm seeing this little Piscala, my little daughter, in the big office chair at the big desk, right, in her little Barbie nightgown, maneuvering a mouse. Like that
Yeah.
generation, it's like, put a smartphone in a 1.5-year-old or 2-year-old's hand, and they know what to do with it.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Now, who is teaching them that?
I believe the creator.
Yeah.
That's
So
what
that
I
knowledge
believe.
is being passed down from somewhere, right?
Yeah.
That knowledge is being passed down. I mean, look, you know how many fist fights I've been in? That was, to me, that was a fun time. That's what I mean. Like, I'm a battle dog. I don't mind the fight. Only thing that's going to happen, the worst thing that's going to happen, you beat me up. And if you beat me up, I'm coming back to fight you again tomorrow, if not later on today, right?
Yeah.
But now let's think about this more intimately, right? Let's think about this more intimately.
Okay.
This one gets kind of like freakish. Let's just put it that way. Instinctively, we as a human race understand how to reproduce, right? I mean, from a very early age, young boys, we're running around and, you know what I'm saying, we're looking at women trying to test us out and trying to see what we can do, right? We know instinctively that, hey, I like this over here, right? Although we may have never experienced it, we know that that's what we want.
Well, somehow you see a 14-year-old girl getting pregnant.
Right. So
By
instinctively,
a 14-year-old
we
boy.
know that it joins in somehow, right? But who's teaching? No one's teaching us these things.
Okay, let's move off of humans for a minute and let's take a look at nature.
Nature.
Let's take a look at nature. How is it that they know? I watch it and I'm always so amazed. Like, I love animals, but there's certain ones that just, like, I love orangutans, okay? Like, I love orangutans. And when you look at them and you look at the mama animal, whatever that is, a horse, a cow, an orangutan, a whatever, and you see them with their babies, or you see how they reject one of their own because of something.
Right.
How is it that they know, like penguins, and then they migrate to specific parts of the world? I mean,
right.
It blows my mind. I know we've moved completely off of healing, but I think it all really is applied.
Right. Everything kind of works
it's
together
applied to the same thing.
The totality of the connections that we have, right? You know, I love the fact that you even brought up penguins, because instinctively, you know, they migrate in order to go and mate.
Yes.
Orangutans understand that, hey, you know what I'm saying? In order for me to be a suitable mate, I'm going to have to learn how to peacock. There's certain things I'm going to do. I'm going to beat my chest. I'm going to ruffle my feathers, right? And things like that. Birds, for that matter, right? Let's think about the term peacocking. A peacock understands that, hey, I have the vibrant colors, right? You know what I'm saying? I'm going to strut my stuff. Things like that. Instinctively, we do that as human beings.
Correct.
Right?
So I have a question for you, because I'm going to just bring this back around, because we are at the top of the hour.
Right.
And I know that you have your grief group. But through your journey of this modality that you've been creating, in order to speak and reach through your lineage, what tips would you give to anybody listening to us today or on the replay? What would you offer to them? How would they start this process?
By asking the question, why are you the way you are? And be curious enough to follow that. See where it takes you. And I will pose that same question to you.
Okay. I'm closing my eyes. Ask me the question again.
In your journey in life,
yeah,
how would you look at that and how you got to where you are?
Okay. I've recognized ever since I saw that episode of Faith with Katie, how many of my decisions I had made from my trauma, which brought me the results that only trauma will bring you.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. I mean, had to be honest with myself. You're right. There has to be a willingness, Tony.
Yes.
There has to be a willingness for everything. A willingness to forgive, a willingness to let go, a willingness to process pain, emotions, and thoughts. And there's certain experiences that I've had stemmed from traumatic circumstances and situations, which when triggered again from a similar, almost identical trauma or circumstance, brought again that frickin' result. So when we're asking, and I want everybody to ask themselves this, and you know, do your own deep dive on this, Tony. But when we start asking ourselves, if you really just kind of compartmentalize your situations and you take a look at them. So for me, as an example, moving. You know, when there was the traumatic thing where my kids and I were evicted. So now over these last chunk of years, when I've had to move, I really had to work on that healing. So I had to be willing to take a look at it. What's going on, Andrea? So there's that as to, you know, where I am today. You know, results. Oh, I could see that I received that result because obviously I made a choice from a place of feeling healed. I healed that area. And then came other things where I've noticed things in my own life, situations that I've had. I'm like, wow, oh my God. My father had that same experience in his life with his children, because he had children in his first marriage. Or, wow, I can't believe how similar this is to what my mother went through at almost the same age that I did. And I told you when I had that opportunity for that apostle, I think she is, and she went through my genealogy, and I don't know how she's able to do it. Obviously, that's a gift that God has blessed her with, and she's using it for people to benefit others. It's like, man, oh man, oh man. And I do want to know. I do want to heal. I know I was being off the cuff with you that day. I was like, yeah, me and my people, and I could see, and they wandered in the wilderness for 40 years. I've been wandering in my own wilderness for 40 years. You know, they idolized. I've been idolized. It is passed down. It is.
That's what I mean.
Passed down. And even though there could be a 100-year gap or hundreds of years gap, or could even be a couple of thousands years.
Well, let's go deeper, right? Because
let's do it.
Again, these are learned behaviors that we have. These are learned traumas that we carry with us. And man has been around since the beginning of time.
Yes.
I mean, hell, we've had to survive the plague, dinosaurs, all kinds of natural disasters, the floods, etc., and we're still here, right? So I don't know if we would ever have the answer about how deep it actually goes, but I believe that if we are courageous enough to stay curious and open enough to learn, not let me just add this in. Courageous enough to learn, but selfish enough to stay within your bloodline,
Yes. Okay.
right? And what I mean by selfish, stay with you. Stay within
In
everything
my lane.
that
Stay in
aligns
my
with you.
lane. Let me
Right.
stay in my lane.
Let me stand exactly. Let me stay in my lane here, right? And then when you get to a point to where you understand a little bit more, you can bring other people in to have those interactions with them.
Right. I see.
Because then you
Almost.
become a
Yeah.
different version of yourself, right?
Right.
And then and seeing where that goes. My theory is, and I could be wrong. My theory is that if we trace it back far enough, we will find as individuals that we are very unique in our design. Because I believe that although you see this right here, I believe that just like the many layers of healing through the ancestors, also offers many levels of improvement within ourselves as we begin to
Yes.
trace those things
Yes.
to
Yes.
become who we were.
To where we're going
Right,
and where the generations that come after us,
right,
where
can
we
go.
take them now.
But I think that we were built very uniquely, right? I think there's secrets hidden within us, and the answers are within going back those steps and unlocking them. And I think
Okay.
is the key to us finally coming to that circle's edge and completing that
And
circle.
then start another circle.
No. I think that once we do that,
Oh.
it doesn't complete back over. I think what it does, it fills itself in,
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
right?
Okay.
And what I mean by that, right? Because once we can figure out the many secrets, not only our mind hides from us, because we don't use our total brain, right? And anybody ever asked the question, why not? What is it hiding from us? Our mind is designed to keep us safe.
Tony, you say that, and I was in a car accident when I was pregnant with my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember it. I was knocked unconscious. I had a concussion and I have amnesia. And my doctor said it was the brain's way of protecting me
Right.
and not revealing the trauma of the accident. Now, my body knows the trauma. My body still, 27 years later, there's still areas in my body because trauma stays in our body anyways. It's
Yeah.
not in our brain.
Yeah.
It's in our body. So absolutely. Yes.
That's
Yes.
that's what I mean right there, right? And again, I am just that guy. I am so curious about this path of understanding the depth of healing that I'm willing to go. I'm willing to go there. I'm willing to allow my mind to unlock itself
Mm.
so I can become my authentic self. Because I think right now what we're doing is that we're touching just on the surface of our authenticity,
We need
right?
to go deeper.
Right. And I want to go deeper because I want to know. I want to know why I'm designed the way that I am and why everyone else is designed the way that they are. And if I'm able to unlock those things and become the version of me, the ultimate version of me, can I teach it to other people through connection? through understanding, through
Yes.
understanding who God truly is to us, and
Yes.
that He's truly given us, and is hidden within us in plain sight. And all the
Right.
things that we're searching for, and again, this is just my theory. I believe that everything that we are searching for is right in front of us. We've
Right.
been blinded not to see them and too afraid to reach out there and to them
Mm-hmm.
because we're afraid of who we're going to become.
Right.
And through pain and suffering, grief and trauma, I think those are the keys to everything that we need in this world. I could
Yeah.
be wrong, but I'm just curious enough to go down that rabbit hole and find out.
Yeah.
Right? Only
Yeah.
thing that can happen is that I become a little bit more wiser, or maybe just a lot more dumber.
Well, listen, the proof will be in the pudding, Tony.
Yeah, yeah. It will be in the pudding. So I'm just curious enough to go down that rabbit hole, and I think that's why we do these right here, because we want to connect with those individuals that are curious enough to go down that rabbit hole themselves.
Listen, we're like Jacques Cousteau, and we are on an exploration.
Right. This is the sea deep, the sea depthness. Right. It's unknown territory. Let's go down it. Let's go figure it out.
And if we think about it, there is so much unknown territory in our own lives, in our own families, in our own relationships, whether that's with our fellow humans or with God. There is that unknown territory.
Right.
Well, 2021, I didn't think there was a whole bunch of unknown territory that I had no clue was awaiting me to start walking and exploring in.
Right, exactly.
So when we think we got it all figured out, or we say, but that's just who I am, we do ourselves such a disservice. We do such a disservice to ourselves.
I'm right there with you. I know we're at the top of the hour, and I got a group coming up real soon.
Tony, this was fantastic, my man. Thank you.
It is. And, tell people what you got coming up, Andre. What you got coming up?
What have I got coming up? I got some podcasts coming up, and I have my new program, the Emotional Freedom Technique. It's a blueprint that we work together for 12 weeks to really do that discovering and the uncovering of really to get to that initial root of your frustration, of your pain, of your grief, of your discontent, your discouragement. Tony, you've just now entered into your 50s, looking fabulous.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah, and you're welcome. And I'm now in my 60s, and I have to tell you that the issues,
fabulous as well.
God bless you, Tony. Thank you. The issues for women of that generation of yours and of mine are really different than the situations that we had to deal with when we were in our 30s and our 40s.
Mm-hmm.
And let me be your leader. Do you remember on Flintstones? Take me to your leader.
Oh, yeah.
Take me to your leader.
Oh,
yeah.
See, you done brought up some old stuff right there. That's my damn Flintstones, Mork and Mindy. Let's think about that for a minute, right?
Yeah. Listen, my friend told me when we were little that when we grow up, we're going to be able to be on the telephone and see each other who we're talking to.
Mm-hmm.
So later it's like, Fern, what were you talking about? She goes, Andrea, I got that from the Jetsons.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
yeah.
I'm glad that you said that, right? Because I told someone else and they did not believe me. I said, do you realize that technology is being cycled back around? And again, that's why I started thinking about it. I was like, what if we're recycled back around? The technology that we have now was back in the 70s.
It has been. It has been. There's somebody I follow on Instagram. And he brings stuff up.
Yeah. Think about the car phone. Let's think about Star Trek, right? Think about the GPS.
What about Get Smart? What about Get Smart with the phone in his shoe?
Get Smart. What about Inspector Gadget? Okay, these are cartoons that was put right in front of us. Now let's go a little bit deeper than that. What about RoboCop? The first handheld GPS. That was back in the 80s.
Yeah.
Let's think about the first time you saw a guy riding around in a big old deuce and a quarter, and he had the big old telephone looking like a refrigerator in his car. He's driving around talking, right? Now
Right.
let's go back to some of those old Wall Street movies and stuff like that when he was riding around talking to people in the car, and they were sitting back in the limo, and you hear bling bling, and they're taking up the phone and calling people, right? Like these things have already been around. What about let's think about this for a minute. Let's think about Star Trek, the first hologram. They was already implementing holograms. They were already on screen, you know what I'm saying, moving stuff around in order to navigate the galaxy.
Something started listen, there's a guy, as I was saying, I found him on Instagram, and he brings receipts, man. Okay. And of stuff like the 1700s and so on, and how they didn't want us to know about it. Right. So they thought that they could bury it, they could hide it, they could do things. Listen, it's freaking crazy. But where people can find me, you're going to see me on a number of podcasts, but you know I'm going to be back here with you next Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 12 p.m. Mountain Time, right? Yes. And what are we doing next week? What's our topic of discussion?
You know what? I have to look at the schedule. Let me just make sure. I got it written down. I got to go through and make the
I know. Let me see if I have it.
Post for everything
handy.
And of course, I got it all written down.
Oh, wait, I got it here. I got it. Okay, so let me see. Understanding.
Okay, so let's
peeling back to so that'll be the 28th if we're following correctly. Oh no, this was supposed to be August 24th. Peeling back the layers. So next week will be understanding the repeating consequences that you may not realize. So the repetition of things, which we touched a little bit upon today in our conversation.
Right. So we'll be at, for the one that we're doing today should have been August 24th. So the next one is September, would have been September 14th, which is the fifth one, resisting your healing and understanding the consequences of repeating situations. And then after that is breaking the cycle, understanding how to sit with your pain, and then the last one is accepting joy and happiness. So we're going to be doing it back to back and get caught up in a decent amount of time. So next week we're doing resisting your healing and understanding the consequences.
I love it.
So I'm definitely looking forward to that. That's going to be pretty awesome. So guys, for you guys tuning in, go check out Andrea. She's out here doing amazing work. But also, you guys already know what to do. If this is your first time tuning in, head over to the YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification. I got everything down there. You see that little scroll bar down at the bottom right there? Let's Talk About a Podcast. We are on YouTube. So if you want to stay on top of everything that we do, that's where you can find that. And that's going to be important to know because we are going to be switching platforms. Now, if you're a man out there and you're looking for support, head over to that website, www.mensgriefsupport.org. We are a nonprofit dedicated to creating an atmosphere for men to be supported and by other men and to have open conversations about what's going on so we can start the healing process. Because just like women sharpen women, men sharpen men, iron sharpens iron. So we all need each other in this world, and it's important that we do start the healing process. If you guys enjoyed this episode, you guys already know we're diving deep into our ancestral healing and breaking those chains of those ancestral traumas. Please stay on top of there. Tell us what you think and join in. Ask questions. You guys already know how we do it. But also an update as well. You guys already know that the magazine dropped a couple of days ago. If you haven't already, hit me up. I decided what I'm going to do for the first ever copy of the magazine. I will send it to you totally free, the downloadable link as well. Now, anything after that, I will say that there will be a subscription fee if you want the next episodes. We're going to keep putting articles in there, helpful articles. It is the first magazine dedicated to those grieving, going through trauma, and mental health. And we're added in new sections. We're putting podcasts up there that are people doing amazing things in the podcast world that are dedicated around those topics. Also, we will be adding in an events page or pages. So if there's events going on in the world that people are holding, we're going to be putting them in there to keep you guys updated on that as well. But the one thing that I am truly, truly excited about, I'm excited about the whole thing. But the one thing that I think is going to bring all of this together to help you guys understand that we're in this world together. You're not alone.
No.
This segment is called Letters to Your Loved One. And what that is your letters to your loved one. And we're going to showcase them. We're going to put them out there. So if that's something that you guys are interested in, please reach out to me. I would love to have your story in the magazine. And with that being said, you guys, we're going to conclude this episode of the Grief Let's Talk About It podcast. Episode 4 of Ancestral Healing. We're diving deep into breaking those ancestral traumas and chains. And Andrea, again, thank you for tuning in.
Thank you, Tony.
And again, this will be a panel discussion. I know we've been behind a little bit, but we've been caught up. So you guys,
it's all good. It is what it is, and it happens for its reasons that it happens. So
we're making everything happen, right? Everything moves the way that it's supposed to move. We make it, and we make it do what it do. Right? You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Yeah. And for everyone else out there, if you're in the Fort Collins area, 11 Fort Collins area, I did start my new program, Resilience, last week. It is a 12-week program designed for men to help us move and address those things. It is step by step. Come join in. It is free to attend. Out here at the CIC building, 525 West Oak Street, Fort Collins, Colorado, 80521. It's happening every 2 weeks, twice a month. And, we would love to have you guys come in. So this is what we got going on. With that being said, guys, have an amazing day. It is Saturday, and go out there and enjoy yourself. And we're going to see you guys tomorrow in the next daily episode of the Grief Let's Talk About podcast as well. Guys, catch you in the next one. Peace.
Peace out, Tony.